Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Pro fans, tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what do everybody? It's your boy John Altidor with Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Back at you with another one. My boys Vlad, Barry, and back on the show, thankfully. It's the Patriots Football Weekly editor for the New England Patriots, Paul Perillo. Thanks for coming on, man. Happy New Year. How you doing?
You too. Thanks, boys. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir.
Same here. We're glad to have you back on. Welcome back on the Pro Fan Sports Podcast. So,
You know, what were your thoughts on the game and how did we lose this?
Yeah, and the game itself is, obviously you're dealing with a lot of different things that you just touched on. And, compounding the problem with all of that is just how talented Buffalo is. And they're clearly the class of the AFC East, if not the AFC, period. And I think what you saw is, even as a team that probably didn't get a whole lot of preparation time in during the course of the week, they practiced very little. I don't even think they thought about football at the earliest until Thursday, once they got some positive news regarding, Damar Hamlin. So I think they weren't necessarily ready mentally to play the game, but you just saw how good they are, that they were able to make a couple of plays in the kicking game. Josh Allen makes a couple of ridiculous throws. And that's the difference in the game, and even with them really not playing at their fullest potential, they're just so talented that it was hard to keep up. So what the Patriots need to do here, first and foremost, is don't get yourself in a position where you have to win in that last game to get in, because obviously the margin for error is there, but they need to improve the talent level on the roster at some spots so they can get themselves in a position where they can better compete in a game like that.
Yeah, yesterday the Bills ran 2 kickoffs to the house, and the Patriots, they played good enough to win the game, and I think without those 2 touchdowns, it's a much more competitive game. And then I was thinking, maybe if they had a good special teams coach. And then I remember, there was a guy that was really good at this, but he was working with quarterbacks yesterday. Like, what are we going to do about this moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's the number one question we all have now, right? We got a chance to listen to Bill Belichick Monday morning, and didn't necessarily say that changes were coming, didn't say they weren't, but, I think that the number one item on the agenda is trying to figure out how the offensive coaching staff is going to look going forward. And does that mean Bill O'Brien comes in, or does that mean that you have some different options? Maybe Cliff Kingsbury, who was let go in Arizona. He's a guy that a lot of people have sort of been interested in as an offensive coordinator. Maybe somebody outside, of the Patriots family. But whatever, I think that's where it needs to start, guys, right? You can't continue, I don't think, with Matt Patricia, defensive coordinator, trying to coach the offense and the offensive line, and Joe Judge, who has largely been a special teams coach in his NFL career, trying to coach the quarterbacks. I think they need to find a better solution than that. And then all your moves are in play now, right, John? Like, you have Joe Judge work with the special teams, and everybody kind of falls into a role that they're more suited for. But that's got to start with identifying an offensive coordinator. If it's Billy O'Brien, I'm a big Billy O'Brien fan. I loved the job that he did when he was here. I like the job that he did as a head coach, both at Penn State and at Houston. So I think he's a very good football coach. He's from the area. He's actually lives up my way, up in the North Shore. He's originally from. So I think that makes a lot of sense. We'll see if it happens this week.
Yeah, I saw that conference with Bill Belichick, and the media was they got after him. They were peppering him, you know,
They did.
especially Tommy Curran,
Mhm.
you know, and it's Bill's motto to say that, you know, he does what's best for the team. I mean, he kept saying that, and just thinking about everything that happened this season, I'm like, well, did he do what's best for the team this year? Because I'm like, if you thought that that's what was best for the team, like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it gets frustrating when, rather than answer any of the questions, the answer becomes the pat. Well, I do what I think is in the best interest of the team, and that's such a nebulous term because what I think is best for the team might not be the same thing that you think is best for the team. So there's a good chance that somebody's wrong, and I don't think anybody would ever say that a head coach would intentionally sabotage things. And I don't think Bill Belichick said, I know the worst thing that I could possibly do is hire Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think he thought it would work. I honestly think that he thought that was the best solution at the time, but it clearly wasn't because of all the reasons that we've hashed out. I'm sure you guys have had your podcasts all during the course of the season with various members of the media, and they all said the same things that I'm saying, right? It just didn't work. It never meshed right from the start. I don't think Mac Jones ever had any confidence in the way that it was set up, and he never allowed it to work. So that to me is step one. You got to figure out the situation with the coaching staff and get something that's more palatable for everybody.
Well, I just want to say, we heard some good news today about Darren Hamlin going from Cincinnati to the Bills, which is great,
Yep.
really good news. We didn't get to talk about that because when we recorded last week, the game happened after the recording. Any thoughts on that situation and how the NFL handled that, and how the Bills and the Cincinnati handle that situation?
Yeah, I thought the teams were both outstanding, and I would say especially so Cincinnati for the way they sort of I thought graciously handled everything on the spur of the moment, and those situations aren't easy because very few of us has practice in really a life and death situation. So obviously the care that he received immediately from the trainers and the medical staff was excellent, and that's why we're still talking about this in positive tones. You started off the whole thing. We got some good news today because he was able already to get from Cincinnati back to Buffalo this morning. So I think that's where it starts, is the care that he received. But in terms of the way it was dealt with, I really don't think there's a bad guy here. I think the NFL probably could have declared the game, over a little bit sooner than they did. But I don't think that I don't necessarily buy the whole notion that they wanted them back on the field in 5-minute warm-up. I think that's standard operating procedure in the league when there's an injury and then a delay. The teams are afforded 5 minutes to warm up. I don't think this was a standard operating procedure kind of thing. I don't think that was ever really on the table. But I really would say what impressed me the most was the way that the two teams sort of got together, and specifically Cincinnati, Zach Taylor and his captains in the Bills locker room, and sort of the brotherhood that you saw among players. And I thought that's what stepped to the forefront. And, thankfully, as you said, Vlad, we're talking about a positive story rather than a tragic one.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. In some of the game, I feel as though the offense has, as bad as it was all year, the last couple of games, I would say that the offense made some progress or look like a functioning offense at least. Do you think they can build on that? Do you think Mac Jones is the quarterback of the future for this team?
Yeah, there's a lot there. I would say on Sunday against Buffalo, I thought it did look like, for the most part, a functional offense. I'm not sure I share the same sentiment. I know Tony Romo, during the course of the game, was really talking about how the Patriots are finding their identity late in the season. I haven't seen that. I didn't see a very good offense against Miami when they only scored 2 touchdowns, and one of them, came at the very end of the game. But in this game against Buffalo, I did think they had 3 sustained touchdown drives that they mixed things up a little bit. I thought Mac did a good job of spreading the ball around, getting the ball downfield a little bit, making some chunk plays. I thought the last touchdown of the 3 was an outstanding play with Devontae Parker down the sideline. So, yeah, I think there were some things there that were a little bit better. I don't know how much you can carry over. I really do think you're going to be dealing with a whole new set of coaches next year. And if you're not, one of my fears, and this is, I guess, I grew up in Boston, so I just always worry about things with my sports teams, even when they have success. One of my fears is that they did do a little bit better offensively against Buffalo, and that's going to encourage Bill Belichick and maybe some of the members of the organization to say, well, it's coming around. We're going to keep it this way. I don't think it'll work. I don't think Mac Jones likes it this way. I don't think he trusts it, and I don't think he'll ever be any better than he is right now under that current format. So I think changes need to be made. Whether Mac Jones is the guy of the future or not, I think he's going to be the quarterback more than likely next year, although Bill Belichick wouldn't really commit to that today. But I think he needs to be dealt a better hand and given some more support.
Yeah, no, I definitely totally am with you and agree on those things for sure, that things have to change, with this team. And that to be some pretty significant and, big changes, not only, especially with the, offensive coaching staff and other parts of the coaching staff, and particularly, the roster for sure. Now, I wanted to ask you, Paul, what specifically on this roster, because I know you had, briefly mentioned at first that there's some things that need to be changed, on the roster. They need better talent.
Yeah.
What do you want to see specifically? What do they need to do in order to be able to, improve and get better?
And I see that, you have a couple of big plays in the kicking game that turned it into a shootout kind of a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, over the last couple of years, that's a game the Patriots can't win. I think it would start on offense. I think you need a couple of tackles, and I think you need more explosive plays on the outside. I'm not really any different than most Patriots fans when you hear them talk about getting weapons from Mac Jones. I think you need probably 2 wide receivers better than anything you have right now. But without question, you need that number 1 guy that's going to take some of the focus from the defense and take some pressure off the other guys. I love Jacoby Myers. I absolutely love him. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's reliable. I think when they need to make plays, they almost always look to him. He's a free agent. But I also think you need to get guys that are better, more skilled, more talented. You look at the play that Stephon Diggs made yesterday in Buffalo, and the Patriots don't have an explosive receiver like that to make those kinds of plays. So I think you might need to swing for the fences and make a big-time trade like DeAndre Hopkins, or, a guy that I really like that, is entering the last year of his rookie contract in Cincinnati is T. Higgins, who I think is definitely has the makings of a number 1 receiver, and he might get squeezed out there because of all the young talent they have. They're going to have to re-sign Burrow. They're going to have to re-sign Jamar Chase. They can't just re-sign everybody. They have some good quality players on defense too. So I think they need to make a trade for a number 1 wide receiver. They need to draft at least 1 tackle. And they're probably going to need to find a depth receiver as well. And then on defense, I think you need a cornerback. Same kind of situation we're talking about wide receiver. Who do you have that you feel comfortable when they see Minnesota on Thanksgiving against Justin Jefferson? Who do you have against Stephon Diggs, who seems like every time we play the Bills, it's 7 for 100 and a touchdown for Stephon Diggs? They need a number 1 cornerback that they can line up against these top-flight receivers and say, we're going to compete in this matchup. They're not going to dominate. You're not going to shut down Justin Jefferson. He's too good. But you can't allow 9 for 136 in a touchdown. You can't allow Stephon Diggs to get deep on you, to put the game away in the 4th quarter on Sunday. So cornerback, I would say linebacker on defense. and maybe someone that can really get after the passer. I like Judon and Uche, but I'd like, a real dynamic, athletic presence on the edge. So it sounds like I'm asking for a lot. That's because I am. I think that they're lacking a little bit in some of those spots to keep up with the Buffaloes, the Cincinnatis, and the Kansas Cities of the AFC.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I don't blame you asking for a lot because there's a lot of work and a lot of things that need to be done and a lot of, positions that need to be addressed on this roster in order for this team to, improve and to, make the playoffs and be competitive when you get to, the playoffs if they can, get to that point. But, they certainly need a lot of improvement in a lot of areas on this team for sure. Another thing I wanted to ask you was about Bill Belichick, and I think some people are really, because these last 3 years haven't gone as well as we thought. Just wanted to ask you, do you still feel the same about Bill Belichick? Have you lost faith and confidence that he's the coach that can really be able to be able to right the ship and get this team back on the right track? Because I didn't like what I heard in that press conference, and it seemed to me like he was even making some excuse making and like calling out the ownership for not spending enough money on the players and on the talent on the roster.
Yeah, and I do still have confidence that he's a very good coach, but I have to admit that I have been shaken a little bit of where I thought he was. There's been a lot of curious decisions that I think he's made in terms of personnel, and even in game with some of the decision making. And I do wonder if they had such great teams during the dynasty years that maybe some of that talent was lifting him up a little bit more than we thought. So I do still have confidence in him, but I would agree with you. I thought he sounded on Monday morning like a guy that was sort of saying, well, Josh Allen he just made some great throws. Like, it wasn't us, it was him. He was just so good. Well, you can cover them too. Like, you can stop some of those plays if you're in position. And he was asked if Mac Jones is the quarterback of the future. Well, we need to evaluate these things and see where we can improve the production. Like, is he a quarterback or is he not? Is it his fault? Are you trying to say it's his fault that the offense isn't as good? And then the last thing that you mentioned about the spending, to me, was kind of excuse making, because whatever they are in the last 3 years, Robert Kraft has given plenty of support to the football program over the span of the last 25 years. You'd be hard pressed to find an ownership group that's more supportive and given everything that they need to give in order for the team to succeed. So to sit there and talk about over a 3-year span that they only spent a lot of money in one of those 3 years, well, that's more than a lot of teams do. So I did think that there was a lot of excuse making there, and it did kind of, it was almost like, don't blame the coaching, it's the players. And I know he didn't say that, but that's how I took it.
Yeah. No, me too. That was my same impression and reaction towards that. And yeah, I wasn't happy at all once I heard that, and was kind of disappointed in Belichick when he had said those words in the press conference. But for sure, I thought there'd be some more, accountability there as far as what had, happened and what transpired and why the team wasn't as successful as, as they should have been or capable of been. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But, hopefully, he can be able to right the ship and, make the necessary moves and changes that he needs to make in the offseason to be able to, make this team better and put them in a position to, get back into the postseason.
Yep.
Yeah, like a little confidence in your QB can go a long way. We see what it did to, for Tua this year, and of course, providing them with some more weapons. Like you said, the organization has been behind Bill 100%. It always is. And I feel like the last couple of years we've had some good drafts. We've had some good draft picks. We had some guys develop into real contributors on the team. Do you think this year Robert will step in a little bit and give a little more direction, or be a little more firm with Bill on what, the direction of the team?
Well, that's going to be the interesting part, John, because the coaching situation is what we're all talking about. And we're all wondering, does Bill really want to make a change? Does he really want to do it on his own? Or is Robert going to need to sit down and talk to him and say, well, what are you thinking? And then Bill says, well, I think that we're getting it. I think it's coming along. And then Robert says, I'm not so sure it's coming along. I didn't like the direction. I didn't like the way Mac Jones received it. And we need to do more to support him. And then if that happens, you wonder if they're butting heads a little bit. So I think that's the key question. And those are probably answers that we're never going to get, because we're not going to be privy to those conversations. But I do have that fear in the back of my mind that in order for any change to work, the people who are making the changes need to want to make changes. It's like anything else. If you don't want to change jobs, or if you don't want to, move to a different city, you're never going to accept it. If you end up having to do it because you have to do it and you don't want to do it, then you're not going to embrace it. And I think it's really important that if they do make changes with the coaching staff, that's what Bill wants to do. If not, I can see your scenario where Robert is sort of stepping in and sort of pushing him in a direction that he wants to see the team go. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit tricky, because that might not be received too well. I don't know how it's going to go. I wish that's the stuff that I was joking about at the start. I wish I had the answers for you, but I think we'll find out some stuff over the next few days, and maybe another week or so. But I think if you don't hear anything about an offensive coordinator within a week, I think that's a bad sign.
For sure. And I had a follow-up to that question, and kind of been thinking about this a lot. If Kraft and Bill don't see eye to eye on certain things in the roster, I know Bill said today that he is planning on coming back for the 2023 season. Is there possibility that may not happen if Bill and Robert Kraft don't see eye to eye and are
I don't, I think that Bill will be back. But I do say that, like, because some people, like, were saying, like, oh, Belichick, acknowledged that he'll be back next year. Well, he said that he plans to return. Like, that doesn't mean he's going to be back. That's not the same thing. And I agree with you. If for whatever reason, Robert Kraft doesn't like what he hears from Bill Belichick, and then he demands it, and then Bill doesn't take a demand, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I have control of the roster. Well, you're the owner, and that's how it happens, and it's, 23 years now? So it's a long time. It's a long time that those two guys have coexisted. So do I think he'll be back? Yeah. I mean, I'd put it at, over 90%, probably over 95%. But most years I would have said absolutely 100% he'll be back. I don't say 100% right now.
Wow.
Wow. Geez. Oof. So there is a chance that.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's probably over 95% that he'll be back. But I can't discount the fact that maybe Robert wants to do some things differently, and Bill says, no, we're not doing it differently. And all of a sudden you're at each other's throats, and that's how it happens.
Right.
That there could be a disconnect, and that's kind of what I fear too, that is a possibility of happening.
Another divorce going on in New England, possibly.
Yeah, we don't need that.
We don't need that. I think Paul.
I want a nice quiet offseason. I don't need any coaching searches. I don't need any of that.
Right, and that brings me to my last question, man. We got 8 months to go. Without football in New England. What does that look for you?
Well, here's the thing.
Like,
You know, I think this is only the third time since I've been working here, or maybe the fourth time that we didn't make the playoffs. And I will say one thing, you know, I will enjoy just sort of sitting back and watching the playoffs and not worrying about what I need to write or what I need to, who I'm rooting for to win and who they're going to face and where they're going. I know that stinks for fans, and I'm a fan at heart. You know, that's where I, you know, sort of got into this in the first place. I was a season ticket holder, like a lot of other people, but I am looking forward to watching the playoffs, you know, starting on Saturday, and just sort of relaxing and I'll settle into the off season probably, you know, once the Super Bowl comes, I'll really start digging into some of the free agency and the draft and things like that. But, you know, that 8 months sounds like a long time. It's not as long as you think. Right. It comes around pretty quickly. And the way the NFL is now, you guys see it. You guys probably, you know, live this stuff every day. It's free agency. It's the draft. You know, it's the combine. It's the draft. You know, the schedule comes out, and all of a sudden you have OTAs coming, and then before you know it, training camp is here, and you start all over again.
Year round, you know.
It is.
Before the playoff gets here, today is January 9th, and we have a huge game on tonight, which is the college football national championship. You know.
Barry thinks the big game tonight is the Celtics. So I thought like you, John, I was like the big game, you know, this college football championship. I was looking forward to watching. He's like, what, you mean the Celtics? one of 82 games in the boring NBA season.
Who you got tonight?
I think Georgia is probably going to be a little too much for him. But, you know, like a lot of other people that aren't Georgia fans, I'll be rooting for the upset. I'll be rooting for TCU, a team that's not really in that structure. And I like when there's teams that crash the party, you know, on all the blue bloods, you know. I mean, I can appreciate what Alabama and Georgia do and Clemson has done in the recent past, but I'm always going to root for that upstart to come in. So I got TCU tonight. I'll be rooting for. I think Georgia will probably take it. That defense is amazing.
Yeah.
Georgia's defense.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
All those guys that you're watching every week in the NFL that came off that Georgia defense, you know, we saw like Quay Walker last night, you know, Trayvon Walker, if you watch Saturday night in the Jacksonville game, I mean, like all of these kids that came off of that defense that are making an impact right away, and they just recycled the whole thing. They're just as good as they were last year when they had all those draft picks come off that defense. So Kirby Smart can coach some defense, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I'd like to see a more defensive game tonight myself, because last week's games were touchdowns all over the place.
Shootout, I know. Both of them were
shootout.
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about it. I was stuck at a wedding last week, and I saw about one half of one of the games.
Dang.
So, yeah, that wasn't fun.
Well,
New Year's Eve wedding.
It's been a pleasure. You got another one, Barry?
Yeah, I got one more. I've been dying to ask this question because I know the last time Paul came on here, I didn't get a chance. So I want to make sure I ask this question. I listened to you on Phil and Maz. A lot. I know you're on there with them every week during the football season, and I always laughing here when they call you sunshine.com. I was wondering how that nickname came about, and why is it that they refer to you as Mr. Sunshine.com?
Okay.
Because I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. So way back when I first started at the Patriots at Patriots.com, it was I think it was 1999 maybe, and during the preseason, they were struggling. They had lost a couple of preseason games, and there was this old veteran reporter from the Providence Journal. His name was Eddie Duckworth, and he had a very distinctive way of talking. And we were sort of doing a story on some backup newcomer, that no one would ever really be, talking about. And this guy, Eddie Duckworth, says, "Look at this. The ship is sinking, and Sunshine.com is doing a feel-good story on Kato Sirwenga. who was the sort of undrafted rookie free agent at the time, because when you're Patriots.com, you write about all the players. You don't just write about Mac Jones and Tom Brady. You write about, everybody. So because they weren't playing well and we were focusing on some new guy, they were making fun of us for just accentuating, all the positives. And he called us sunshine.com, and it kind of stuck. And Mike Felger has been bringing me on the show ever since to the sunshine.com, and we do the Brady Bunch theme song with Sunshine Day. It's a lot of fun because it allows me to be critical of the team, and people think, well, he's not going to be critical. He's always sunshine. It's great. It's great for me.
That's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that story with us, Paul. Appreciate it. That's pretty cool how that came about.
Yeah, and I'll be on with those guys again on Wednesday. It'll probably be my last one. Usually once the playoffs come, we back off. But I've been, I like those guys a lot. I know that a lot of the fans, they drive them crazy because they're so negative sometimes. But, Michael and Tony and I worked together at the Boston Herald going back like the mid, all through the 90s, really. So I went to college with Mike, and we've been friends for a long time. We've been friends for 30 years. So I enjoy, hanging out with those guys. And I know they like to tease me and stuff about the sunshine.com, but there's a lot of fun there too. So I enjoy those spots. I'm glad you guys listen. You guys got to let them know that's the best part of the week when it's sunshine day, best part of the week. Get me a little extra money for going on.
Awesome. Yeah, no, for sure. I love your segment, and when you go on that show, whenever I get the chance, I always try to make sure that I listen and tune in whenever you're on there. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So now thanks for letting us know how that came about, because I always wondered, when I listen, why do they call him that? Like, how did that start, and and how did he get that nickname? So I'm glad now I know how that originated.
Yeah, my wife always asks too. She's like, I don't see what's so sunny about you.
Really? She says that? Wow, that's crazy, man. Wow. Oh, it's pretty funny.
Oh, again, thank you for coming on Pro Fan Sports Podcast and discussing the Patriots with us, man. It's always a pleasure having you on, and we love the work you're doing, as you can see. So you're always welcome to come on, man, and have a good downtime, because things gonna ramp back up pretty soon. So
yeah, I know.
And enjoy the start of the year, and we'll talk to you soon, man. Have a good night.
All right. Anytime you guys need me, I'd be happy to help.
Yes,
I wish you guys the best.
Thanks, Paul.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Enjoy the game tonight. You don't watch the Celtics too much, Barry. It's boring. They're the best team. So.
All right. See you, Paul.
All right, guys.
Have a good night, Paul. Thanks for coming up. Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That was the great Paul Perillo, Patriots Weekly editor for the Patriots, New England Patriots. Make sure you guys are following him. It's at PFW Paul on Twitter. The guy, he's a Patriots insider, so whatever he's talking about, usually there's something going on. So make sure you're supporting that guy. Make sure you're supporting us as well. We're at ProFan Sports on everything except for Instagram, and that's at ProFans_sports. Make sure you're liking, subscribing to the channel. It's the best way you can support us. Share these videos, man. Put your friends on to this podcast. We're trying to get this thing outside, man. We're trying to get it out of there. So until next time, we'll catch y'all later.
Have a good week, everyone. See y'all next